What if confessing your love went so wrong? You accidentally proposed to a naked alien princess. That's exactly what happens to poor Rito Yuuki in To Love Ru. He just wants to tell his crush how he feels, but instead, he ends up dragged into intergalactic chaos, insane gadgets, and non-stop awkward situations that would make any high schooler want to crawl into a hole. From killer suitors to crazy inventions, nothing goes right for Rito. And that's what makes it hilarious. Let's dive in. The story kicks off with a mysterious girl zooming through space. Henchmen chase her down, trying to take her out. Just when it looks like she's done for, she pulls off an escape. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Yuki Rito is gearing up to confess to his crush, Haruna Sairenji. He's way too shy to make a move. Every time he tries, something ridiculous gets in the way. After school, Rito finally gathers the courage to confess as Haruna walks past. But a spaceship crashes right in front of him, almost squashing him flat. Rito heads home feeling bummed about blowing yet another chance to confess. In his room, he calls up his best friend, Saruyama Kenichi. Saruyama knows Rito all too well and isn't shocked at his constant failures. He tells Rito he really needs to get more comfortable around girls. Just when Rito thinks the day is finally calm, while chilling in the bathtub, he suddenly sees the mysterious girl appear, completely naked. In the chaos, his hand lands somewhere it really shouldn't. Later, back in his room, she tells him her name's Lala Satalin, and she's actually an alien from Devaluk. She says she used one of her inventions to randomly teleport into the bathtub because she's on the run. Her robot buddy, Peak, shows up and reunites with her. Before long, villains named Maul and Smuts crash the scene, having tracked Peak down. Nervously, Rito ends up helping Lala make a run for it by escaping over the rooftops. Once they land on solid ground, those guys from earlier catch up to them. But things are about to get even more complicated when a huge spaceship lands, and a guy in armor named Zastin steps out. Turns out, Lala's actually a runaway princess because her dad is always trying to marry her off by setting up meetings with suitors. Zastin and his team came to bring her back. Lala then takes out a phone-like device and activates her invention, Go-Go Vacuum Kun, a giant octopus-shaped vacuum that sucks Zastin and the others inside. But this thing keeps pulling in everything nearby, including Rito, and Lala forgets how to shut it off. Halfway through swallowing Rito, the machine gets clogged and suddenly explodes. The day after, Rito is still upset about the crazy stuff that happened with Lala the night before and decides he wants to keep his distance from her. While heading to school, he runs into Haruna and thinks this might be his golden opportunity to confess his feelings. He nervously closes his eyes and says what he wants to say, only to accidentally say it to Lala, who suddenly appears right in front of him. Of course, Rito's made another big blunder with the girl he really likes. Lala, however, is absolutely thrilled and hugs him tight, declaring they're engaged, much to Rito's chagrin. So now, his romantic troubles are just getting started. And that's just episode 1. Rito tried to confess his love and ended up engaged to a naked alien princess. If that cracked you up, hit like and subscribe before Lala invents something that deletes this video. The next day, Rito wakes up to find Lala right next to him, completely naked. He panics, tumbling out of bed. Lala, unfazed, acts like it's no big deal. She says she just wanted to sleep next to him because it's cozy, and Peak chimes in that staying dressed all night is tiring. Meekin walks in, sees the scene, and quietly leaves, clearly misunderstanding what's going on. Rito's feeling pretty confused. Peak transforms back into Lala's outfit, and Rito asks why Lala's living with him. She explains it's normal for fiancés to live together. Rito protests, insisting he never proposed. Then Zastin shows up, dropping a bomb. According to Devaluk law, Rito is now officially betrothed to her. He confessed, and they made contact the day before, so it's official now. Rito argues that it was all a misunderstanding, but Zastin warns him that breaking off the engagement could lead to war with Devaluk and spell disaster for Earth. Plus, marrying Lala would make Rito the future king, which is a huge deal. At school, Rito's in a bad mood. His buddy Saruyama thinks it's about Haruna, who's walking by without even looking at him, obviously upset. After class, he tries to talk to her, but she ducks into the girls' changing room. Meanwhile, Lala's wandering around the school, catching everyone's attention, especially the guys. Rito finds her and asks what she's up to, but then Saruyama and the others notice how close they are. When they ask her about it, Lala confidently announces that she's Rito's bride. The guys get all jealous and start chasing him. Rito's panicking and asks Lala to use Warp Kun, but they end up teleporting without any clothes. They teleport into a locker, completely naked. Haruna walks in, sees them, and smacks Rito before he can explain. When Rito gets home, he finds Zastin and Mikan there. She's already caught wind of the engagement and he's freaking out, asking how he can cancel it. Zastin tells him he has 3 days to back out by touching Lala's milkers again before time runs out. Rito tries again and again but fails every time. On the last day, with only an hour left, he takes Lala to a river and talks to her seriously. She smiles genuinely, overjoyed about the engagement, saying that everyone has treated her like a political pawn. So being close to him like this feels like a warm, refreshing change. Rito hesitates, not wanting to hurt her, but eventually, time runs out. The next morning, Zastin is all positive about the couple, while Rito just sulks on his way to school. Just when he thinks he'll get some peace in class, the teacher drops the news. Lala is now officially a transfer student in his class. Rito scolds Lala for suddenly enrolling in his school, but she just wants to stay close to him. When he asks how she got in, she explains the principal thought she was cute. Rito mutters, calling him a pervert. He warns her not to cause any trouble since people might find out she's an alien. Lala promises to be careful, but she instantly draws attention in class. Her quirky artwork, her incredible strength in gym, and making the boys envious of Rito for hanging out with her. He gives her a hard time again, but she reassures him she'll be cautious. Meanwhile, Haruna is thinking about how close Rito and Lala are. She bumps into Rito in the hallway, and it gets a bit awkward. Not knowing what to say, he ends up asking her what she thinks about Lala. Haruna says she thinks Rito and Lala make a good pair, which leaves Rito feeling down. Lala then shows up and drags him home. Later, Mikan notices that Rito looks kind of gloomy and suggests they should all go out the next day to cheer him up and help Lala get to know Earth better. The next day, Rito and Mikan take Lala around town. She gets absolutely thrilled about everything, but her unusual outfit grabs attention. Rito tells her to change it, so her robot Peak tries to copy the clothes of people walking by. After a few fails, they finally find an outfit that works. They browse shops, try out snacks, and Rito even buys her an ugly doll. To his surprise, she absolutely loves it. But then Lala's outfit starts falling apart because Peak is running low on energy. To save her from embarrassment, Rito and Mikan rush her into a lingerie store while Mikan goes off to get her new clothes. That's when Rito catches sight of Haruna outside and starts freaking out about how she'll react. They come up with an excuse that Lala is a foreigner they're showing around. To Rito's surprise, Haruna decides to join them at the aquarium. Lala gets so excited that she runs off, and Rito feels bad for the chaos, but Haruna says it's no big deal. She even feels sorry, thinking she might be bothering him, which Rito tries to brush off. Mikan picks up on Rito's feelings for Haruna and decides to let them have some space. Feeling all nervous, Rito fumbles for words until Haruna takes his arm, and it turns into an unbearably awkward silence. Meanwhile, Lala wanders off and tries to save some fish with her gadget, but chaos isn't done with them yet, and instead, she makes the fish leap out of their tanks. Haruna reminds Rito of how sweet he is, saying he used to take care of the plants at school. The moment feels like it's about to lead to something more. On another note, Lala tries to help the fish by using another device, which spills water everywhere. Out of nowhere, she jumps in completely naked and causes a scene when Rito is about to confess, as usual. Lala suddenly comes back riding a shark on a huge wave that floods the aquarium. Despite the wild chaos, Haruna says she had a blast. The next morning, Rito feels like he's gotten a little closer to her. But on their way to school, he trips and ends up under Haruna's skirt. Utterly embarrassed, she slaps him and runs off, leaving Rito feeling down again. On a foggy lake, Haruna asks Rito about his relationship with Lala. He insists they're just friends. Just as he's about to confess his true feelings, balloons suddenly blow up in his face. Turns out it was just a dream, and he wakes up to find Lala naked in his bed again, snuggled up next to him. Completely freaked out, he jumps out of bed. At breakfast, Lala gets absolutely thrilled about how warm the food is, but Zastin jumps in to explain that as a princess of Deviluk, her meals are always checked for poison, which means they usually come cold. Later at school, Rito is sulking on the rooftop when Zastin pops up out of nowhere, warning him about regretting the engagement. Rito tries to brush it off, but Zastin reminds him that marrying Lala means he could end up being the next king of Deviluk, dragged into intergalactic battles. Thinking about losing badly, Rito freaks out and decides he can't go through with it. That evening, Mikan cooks dinner, and both Lala and Zastin love it. Inspired, Lala decides to whip up her own deviluk dish using random ingredients from the fridge. But it turns into an absolute disaster. She burns the kitchen down and creates some gross black jelly that almost hurts Rito when he tries it. In a panic, he yells that he could never marry someone who can't cook and tells her to go back to deviluk. Hurt, Lala runs off into space, with Zastin chasing after her. The next day, Rito tries to convince himself this is for the best but feels pretty bad about it. Out of the blue, Lala shows up at school, all happy, and drags him away. She explains that he got it all wrong. Being married to her doesn't mean he has to go to war, since even her dad never fought in them. Mad at Zastin for scaring him, Rito starts to feel a bit better. Lala also clears things up, saying she misunderstood him. Thinking he only liked girls who could cook, she brought ingredients from space to make him a meal. Using her robot peak as an apron, she starts cooking while just wearing a bikini underneath. She pulls ingredients out from her invention, the freezer container kun. Then Haruna shows up looking for them. Before Rito can explain, a giant octopus bursts out from the container and grabs Haruna, groping her all over. She faints, and Rito and Lala get caught in its tentacles too. Zastin rushes in to save them, but gets interrupted when a huge squid shows up and starts fighting the octopus for the two girls. He prepares to jump in, but an enormous lobster crashes into the fight, followed by a worm-like creature. All of them spill out of Lala's container, turning the school into chaos. The school ends up in total chaos, and Rito, tangled in everything, yells that this is way worse than any intergalactic war. A car pulls up at the school, and out steps Saki Tenjui, the rich and gorgeous girl everyone admires. She's extremely confident about being the top student, but it really annoys her to see Lala, with her wild inventions, stealing all the attention. Throughout the day, Saki feels overshadowed by Lala, especially with all the guys fawning over her. Saki thinks Lala's stealing her spotlight and decides to strike back. She orders her loyal bodyguards, Rin and Aya, to challenge Lala to a swimsuit contest for the Miss Sinan title. Saki sets up a stage outside the school, sporting her swimsuit, waiting for Lala. Meanwhile, Lala shows the challenge to Zastin, who mistakenly takes it as a threat against her. Unfortunately, Doggy-kun ends up destroying the message before anyone can clear things up. At the contest, Saki gets irritated when Lala doesn't show up, so she declares herself the winner. The crowd, however, doesn't seem too excited, and it hits Saki that winning doesn't feel great if it doesn't involve beating Lala directly. Once she finds out Lala has a fiancé, Saki hatches a plan to lure her out. Aya captures Rito with a crane and hoists him above the stage, declaring he now belongs to Saki unless Lala shows up. Embarrassed with Haruna watching, Rito struggles to break free. Eventually, Lala arrives, still chasing after Doggy-kun, and accidentally knocks Zastin into a compromising position with Saki and Rito. Furious, Saki blames Lala for this mess. Things get worse when Doggy-kun rips Saki's swimsuit, leaving her exposed to everyone. Humiliated, she runs off with Rin and Aya, completely oblivious to the chaos Lala's caused. After school, Aya brings up that Lala might be hiding a huge secret, not realizing she's actually an alien. Saki vows to expose Lala's true identity. Later that night, determined to uncover Lala's secret, Saki sneaks into Rito's house with her bodyguards, only to be caught by Zastin's traps. Rin and Aya manage to escape, leaving Saki behind. While trying to get away, Saki accidentally tumbles into a trapdoor that leads her straight into Rito's room. Hiding under a desk with a camera, she waits to uncover Lala's secret, but accidentally hits a button that sends the whole room into the sky. Scared, Saki comes out demanding answers while Zastin and his crew try to control the situation, but Lala mistakenly launches missiles at them and speeds off. In the chaos, Saki falls, but Lala saves her just in time. Although grateful for the rescue, Saki faints from shock. When she wakes up, she's confused to find herself surrounded by guys. To her horror, Doggy-kun has once again ripped off her clothes while she was out cold, leaving her exposed in public. Mortified, she blames Lala for her embarrassment, while Lala is still wandering around looking for where she lost Saki. Zastin and his crew notice something heading towards Earth while they're in space. Realizing who it is, Zastin decides to let Rito handle it. The object lands on the school's roof, and out steps a big green alien named Giburi, who's in desperate need of a bathroom. After that, he starts sniffing around for Lala and spots her in class dissecting frogs. Instead of being grossed out, Lala gets excited and says she'd rather dissect Rito. She immediately chases him all over the room. Seeing how close they are, Giburi figures out that Rito is Lala's fiancé, but also picks up on his crush on Haruna. So he disguises himself as the principal, knocks out the real one, and hides him away. During lunch, Jiburi, dressed in disguise, suddenly storms into the classroom demanding Haruna come with him and tells Saruyama to warn Rito. Up on the rooftop, Lala keeps chasing Rito, but then Saruyama shows up and says the principal took Haruna to the sports shed. Rito quietly slips away while Saruyama tries to distract Lala. In a desperate move, Saruyama strips down to get her attention, but she screams when she pinches his belly button. Rito finds Haruna all tied up and trapped inside the shed, held by Giburi's tentacles. The alien then reveals his real form and tells Rito to hand over Lala so he can marry her and become the Devoluke King. Lala's getting extremely worried since Rito still hasn't returned. Piki doesn't trust what's going on and fires up her gadget Trace-kun to track him down using one of his boxer shorts. Sadly, this takes her right into the girls' locker room, stirring up more chaos. Meanwhile, Giburi won't stop groping Haruna with his tentacles, tearing her clothes as he goes. Rito gets mad and yells at him for treating the girls like objects, and his anger actually manages to scare Giburi away. Lala finally gets to the shed and sees Giburi, one of the guys who never really caught her eye. When she notices what he's doing to Haruna, she quickly tells him to stop. Giburi turns into a scary monster to try and scare them off, but Rito charges right at him without fear, giving Lala the chance she needs to save Haruna. Freaked out, Giburi shrinks back and goes back to his weak original form. Then Piki spills the beans. Giburi's actually a Balkian, a lame shapeshifter who tricks women into marrying him. Just as Giburi tries to run, his wife shows up with their kids, exposing his lies. Lala then pulls out another gadget, Warp-kun, and blasts them all into space. Once Rito made sure Haruna was okay, though she clearly looked shaken, he got all embarrassed seeing her half-dressed and just took off fast. Lala stayed behind to help fix her clothes. Later on, when Haruna woke up in the infirmary, Lala told her she had fainted from anemia and that Rito was the one who saved her. Haruna smiled softly, touched by the whole thing. Rito's wandering the corridor, but there's this annoying feeling like he forgot something. At the same time, the true principal is tied up in the shed, lost in his fantasies, and a naked Saruyama is slipping even deeper into his own make-believe world. Rito's running late for school when he spots a girl wearing a boy's uniform. He tells her to hurry up, but she just doesn't seem to care. Then, outside Senon High, someone suddenly jumps in. Later on, this same person shows up in Rito's class as a new student named Ren Elise Jewelria. Ren's good looks make all the girls go wild, but he shocks everyone by calling out to Lala and calling her his bride. Lala doesn't recognize him at first, which really bums him out. When Saruyama asks what's going on between them, Ren pulls out an old childhood photo of himself dressed as a girl with Lala. That's when she finally remembers him as her childhood buddy, crybaby Ren-chan. Ren recalls how Lala used him to test inventions and even promised to marry him when he grew up. Lala, however, claims she doesn't remember that promise. Ren's determined to prove himself, so he throws down with Rito in some goofy challenges, like tearing up a manga and racing in gym class. But none of it works out. When he asks Lala if she thinks he's manly enough, she just says, "I don't know," which completely bums him out. Rito briefly wonders if he might have a shot with Haruna if Lala ends up with Ren, but he quickly brushes the thought aside. Things get awkward when Ren accidentally falls onto Rito, and they end up sharing a surprising kiss. Ren's still chasing his dream and is on the lookout for people to figure out what being a man really means. He gathers all kinds of opinions, mixes them together, and tries to impress Lala again. But she just tells him he looks silly. Feeling a bit lost, he accidentally stumbles upon a theater playing a movie called Man. Inspired by the film, he starts training like the hero, climbing snowy mountains to fight Bigfoot, racing super fast drivers, and wrestling bizarre opponents. In the end, it makes him pretty famous. Rito tells Lala to give Ren some credit for his manliness before things get out of hand, but Ren is stubborn and thinks he's not quite there yet. To prove himself, he puts his new muscles to the test with a tough 120-kilometer run. But just when Lala is about to admit Ren's serious manliness, an unexpected sneeze caused by a fly turns him back into the girl Rito first met, shocking everyone. So Ren's power lets him switch genders whenever he sneezes. Meanwhile, Lala's having a hard time calling a girl manly. At school, Lala waits for Rito and activates a magnet-like device to pull him closer. Unfortunately, he stumbles out of the bathroom half-dressed and bumps into Haruna, who slaps him in shock. Soon after, Run arrives, still infatuated with Rito, and lunges at him for another kiss. Before Rito can escape, Saki and her crew show up wearing unusual bondage outfits, challenging Lala to a rematch. Saki warns that if the rematch doesn't happen, she'll attempt to win Rito herself. Their commotion catches the eye of Kotagawa Yui, a strict girl who disapproves of such behavior, though no one pays attention to her. As Run almost kisses Rito once more, she sneezes and transforms back into Ren, accidentally exposing Lala when Piki falls off. Yui faints in shock. Starting right then, Yui holds Rito responsible for all the trouble at school and decides to monitor him closely. Being on the disciplinary committee means she enforces some tough rules: proper uniforms only, no electronics allowed, and no romances. She confiscates one of Lala's gadgets, and it backfires, leaving Lala in a shockingly revealing outfit, making her very upset. The situation gets worse when a magnetic gadget from Lala pulls Rito onto Yui in a pretty awkward way, landing him in even more trouble. Yui ups Rito's punishment by convincing the principal to ban him from talking to girls for 2 weeks. He sulks in class, jealous as the other guys chat with Lala. Yui thinks the school is finally free from drama, but chaos still finds a way with Saki, Lala, Haruna, and Run, even without Rito around. After school, she follows him, wearing a sign that tells everyone he can't interact with girls, and starts to see him being his usual helpful self. He helps an old lady cross the street, does CPR on someone who got hurt, and even replants some flowers. Together, they help a lost kid find her mom, which really touches Yui. She feels bad, lifts his punishment, and starts to catch some feelings for him. On the flip side, Lala wants to cheer Rito up with one of her gadgets, but it goes haywire, dragging Yui into some utterly embarrassing situations. By the time he gets to Lala, he's feeling dizzy and ends up in a pretty embarrassing spot. The next day, yet another incident leaves Lala in a compromising position in front of Rito, and Yui blows up again. A strange guy in a rocket suit crashes onto a farm and asks how to get to Japan. After he gets directions, he thanks the woman with a kiss on her forehead and takes off. The next morning, Rito feels sick while walking to school with Lala. On the way, they spot the same man flying around, but Lala brushes it off and drags Rito to school. Later, still feeling unwell, Rito heads to the infirmary, only to find the nurse missing. To help, Lala has Pike dress up as a nurse and climbs onto him to check his temperature, which quickly causes confusion. Just then, the actual nurse, Ryoko Mikado, walks in and completely misreads the situation, thinking they're playing some doctor game, which leaves Rito feeling embarrassed. After a proper checkup, Rito seems fine for the moment. Later in class, Saruyama talks about how attractive the school nurse is, pointing out that her personal life is a total mystery. After school, Rito's cold gets worse. Out of nowhere, the Rocket Man crash lands again, revealing himself as Pikari. He declares his love for Lala, saying he'd be a way better partner than Rito, and tries to take her away. Lala fights back, wrecking his suit and sending him spiraling out of control. Feeling down, Pikari wanders around until he runs into Ren, who recognizes him. Ren agrees to help fix his suit with some spare parts. Meanwhile, Rito is still feeling sick, and his symptoms get worse whenever Pikari shows up. When Pikari tries to approach again, Lala uses her invention, Service Ace-kun, to launch him far away. Injured and wandering, Pikari meets Zaston, who points him towards a secret space hospital. There, he runs into Mikado, who helps patch him up and fix his suit. The next morning, Rito is sick again and heads back to the infirmary. With Mikado gone, Lala tries to check on him herself. Suddenly, Pikari barges in, knocks Lala out, and grabs Rito in midair, planning to take her away. Just before he can get away, Mikado comes back, furious, and wraps Pikari up with bandages. Lala then sends him flying back to his planet with a rocket. After that, Mikado reveals that she knows Lala is an alien too, and that she is also one. She explains that there are many aliens living secretly on Earth, and she's there to provide medical care for them, though she asks Lala to take it easy. Rito witnesses Haruna taking off her tennis attire and leaning in to kiss him, but he awakens to find a naked Lala next to him, who is dreaming about him. Alarmed, he faints. Later in the park, he mopes about how Lala always sneaks into his bed, claiming it's too much excitement every morning. He sees Zaston with a peculiar alien woman heading toward his home and decides to follow them. The woman turns out to be Stella, the president of Lala's fan club. Thrilled to meet her idol, she introduces herself to Mikan and Rito. Stella describes her role, managing Lala's fan club, publishing magazines about her, and controlling obsessive fans, admitting she's one of them. She then shares her purpose for visiting Earth. She wants to take Lala back to space to release an idol CD. Lala declines, stating that she prefers to remain on Earth with Rito, her fiancé. Stella is so taken aback by this statement that she literally turns to stone, which Lala explains occurs whenever Stella is astonished. Hours later, Stella returns to normal and immediately assaults Rito by strangling him with her hair, but she halts whenever Lala is present. She then insists that Rito take responsibility for being Lala's fiancé, much to his discontent. Determined to proceed with her project, Stella compels Rito to find her a golden egg idol candidate. Rito randomly indicates various girls, but none meet her approval. Frustrated, Stella uses her sense of smell to locate the ideal idol, which leads her right to Haruna's home. Rito panics, realizing how disastrous this could turn out to be and desperately attempts to stop her. Upon meeting Haruna, Stella instantly labels her as her golden egg, while Rito continues to interfere, only resulting in misunderstandings and inappropriate poses with Haruna each time. Back at home, Rito shares everything with Lala and Mikan. Mikan finds Stella's idol work captivating and even offers to help. Stella proposes a comedy duo with Rito, and Lala also joining in, though Rito despises the idea, especially when he repeatedly gets hit with a paper fan during practice. Just when Stella becomes serious about the project, she gets an urgent call from her team. The Space Tax Agency has uncovered her tax evasion. Stunned, she turns to stone again. Her staff swiftly activates a rocket attached to her back, launching her into space. Left behind, Rito sits in despair, gazing at the new hole in his roof. And that's episode 10. Rito's life is so cursed, even alien idol managers show up to bully him. If this madness cracked you up, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe before Haruna walks in on another misunderstanding. A blonde girl dressed in black lands on Earth and thinks about how chill the place is. Back at the Rito house, Zaston gives Lala her monthly allowance. Mikan mentions that Rito has gone out shopping, where he bumps into Haruna. He happily helps her with her bags and admires her cuteness, but they part ways, leaving him feeling a bit bummed. On his way home, Rito grabs some taiyaki and spots that mysterious blonde girl again, staring at him. Thinking she's interested in the food, he offers her some, but she finds Earth's food weird and surprises him by knowing his name. Then, out of nowhere, she turns her hand into a weapon and attacks him, claiming she's an assassin sent to take him out. Rito bolts through the streets, dodging her attacks while confused by her saying he's some kind of fiend. Just as she gets closer, Zaston jumps in and reveals she's Golden Darkness, or Yami, who can turn her body into weapons. Lala arrives, hugging Rito, and Mikado explains Yami's powers, warning Rito to watch out. Zaston and Yami start fighting, but he ends up falling into a manhole. Yami then focuses back on Rito, which makes Lala step up to defend him. The chaos spreads through the town. Lala tries using some gadgets like Sticky Launcher Kun and Catchy Catchy Hand Kun, but can't quite hit Yami. Yami questions why Lala is defending Rito, saying her client claimed Rito threatened Lala and wanted to take over Deviluk. Lala denies it, standing up for Rito and reminding Yami how he once offered her taiyaki. Yami hesitates but sticks to her mission, saying Lala wouldn't get what loneliness feels like since she's been coddled as a princess. Lala fires back that leaving home was her way of gaining her freedom. Out of nowhere, a spaceship shows up, piloted by Lakospo, one of Lala's unwanted suitors. He admits that he hired Yami to kill Rito so he could marry her, but Lala is furious and shoots him down. Yami realizes that Lakospo's info doesn't line up and sees through his lies. Mad, Lakospo commands his giant pet frog, Gamatan, whose spit destroys clothes. Yami gets caught off guard, losing part of her outfit and landing on Rito. Gama targets her again, but Lala jumps in to protect Yami, losing her own clothes instead, which gets Lakospo excited. Rito, being heroic, blocks the next attack and loses his own clothes too, then punches Lakospo before being flung away. In the end, Lala goes on a rampage with a series of punches, sending both Lakospo and Gamma flying. Yami is taken aback by Lala's defense and blushes when Lala calls her cute. Even though Rito suggests Yami can leave Earth now, she insists on sticking around until she finishes her mission, to take him out. Rito is absolutely thrilled because the school sports festival is finally here. He can't wait to show off some medals to Haruna, while Saki is determined not to let Lala steal the spotlight. The first event kicks off with a scavenger hunt. Ren is all fired up to outdo Rito and win Lala's heart, but ends up with a task to find a mythical sword. Meanwhile, the captain of the basketball team boldly picks Heart of True Love and confesses to Lala, only to get shot down. Then Rito draws the most embarrassing task, having to retrieve a girl's discarded underwear. Feeling completely defeated, he freezes until Lala sends out her robots to help him. They shove him toward the girls, and he ends up crashing into Haruna. He quickly backs off, but she slaps him so hard that he goes flying. Next is the girls' obstacle race. Yui starts off strong but gets blocked by her overprotective parents. Haruna takes the lead but runs into trouble when she faces accusations of cheating. Saki then has a run-in with a cop who warns her that her boyfriend will be locked up for 20 years, getting her disqualified. Lala, on the other hand, takes on debt collectors demanding money from her partner and handles them like a boss, crossing the finish line first. Then comes the mixed relay. Rito's nerves kick in about passing the baton to Haruna, but he tries to focus. His team is doing great until it's Ren's turn, who still hasn't returned with the legendary sword. Just then, Ren shows up with the sword and armor, running like mad. He tries to hand the baton to Rito but trips, smashing the sword and cracking the ground open. Rito almost falls in, but when Haruna reaches for him, he accidentally grabs her instead, earning himself another slap. In the nurse's office, recovering students are getting treated while they gear up for the cavalry battle. Rito is freaking out because he has to carry Haruna on his back, thinking she's mad at him. Then Saki reveals her secret weapon. With a remote, she turns the whole arena into a giant pool. The wild water battle starts, and Saki's team flings all kinds of stuff at Lala's crew. Peak is there fixing Lala's clothes every time they get wrecked, which completely frustrates Saki. Ren sneezes out of nowhere and turns into his female form, making him an easy target. Haruna gets knocked out underwater, but Rito jumps in to save her. In all the chaos, Lala swipes Saki's cap and wins the contest. Fuming, Saki hurls a huge ball that crashes into the infirmary where Haruna and Rito are chilling. Rito ends up on top of her again, wrapping up the episode in an utterly awkward mess. On a distant planet, Gid Lucian Devaluk, the ruler of the universe, easily wipes out the Kameru Rengo tribe. After the battle, he decides to head to Earth. Back home, Rito wakes up next to Lala again, feeling flustered, as always. At breakfast, he runs into Zastin, who tells him that King Devaluk is coming to check him out personally. Since Rito is engaged to Lala, the king wants to see if he's good enough. Zastin warns him that the king might already be keeping an eye on him. The next day, on his way to school, Rito is nervous about meeting Lala's dad. He imagines all kinds of powerful, scary aliens and worries that the king won't like him no matter what. He also realizes he's confused about his feelings for Lala and Haruna. At school, Rito tries to stay out of trouble, but chaos breaks out anyway. Saki comes up with another scheme and accidentally ties up Yui. Rito tries to help, but the ropes are way too tight. Lala uses her scissors to cut them, but ends up ruining Yui's clothes, which forces Rito to embrace her until Haruna rushes in to cover her up. All of this is secretly being watched by a mysterious woman hovering on the ceiling. Later on, Rito has more bad luck with Run and Yami. After that, while cleaning up with Haruna, he thinks about talking about his feelings, but he gets called to the roof. There, the woman who was watching him confronts him, showing off photos of him with different girls. She tries to tempt him, but right before anything happens, she vanishes, and a grumpy-looking alien shows up instead. At first, Rito mistakes the visitor for a kid. Then he notices the tail and realizes something's off. The alien introduces himself as Gid Lucian Devaluk, Lala's dad. The king quickly decides Rito isn't good enough and warns he'll wipe him out, along with Earth. Rito's unsure about confessing his feelings for Lala, and the king starts losing patience. Just as he's about to destroy everything, Lala shows up, tears in her eyes, standing up for Rito, and admitting she loves him while praising all the great things about him. Feeling moved by what he saw, Gid chooses to let them go, but makes it clear that if Rito doesn't become the top guy in the universe for Lala next time, Earth's toast. That evening, Rito's set on giving it his best shot. His friends agree to support him, even with all the uncertainties ahead. Rito starts his journey to be a better person but struggles with how to go about it. He spots a football and considers athletics, but quickly realizes he's not in shape for it. So he decides to start jogging instead, but he gets tired pretty fast. While he's resting in a park, he runs into Haruna, who's out walking her dog. He opens up about wanting to improve himself, and she shyly offers to help him out. Later, he keeps this little adventure from Lala when he gets home. The next day at school, he and Haruna share some knowing looks, and he can't help but feel thrilled about their secret. From that point on, Rito makes jogging a daily routine, with Haruna often showing up to cheer him on and even bringing snacks sometimes. One rainy day, she gets brave and invites him to jog together on Sunday, saying she wants to prepare a bento for him. Surprised but excited, Rito agrees, thinking of it as a date. When Sunday rolls around, both of them are a bit nervous. But once Rito finishes jogging, they sit down to enjoy her homemade meal. He loves it, but then things get crazy when Haruna's dog falls into a canal. Rito jumps in without thinking to save it, ending up soaking wet. With his clothes drenched, Haruna takes him back to her place, offering him a bath and a towel while his clothes dry off. Awkward and flustered, Rito finishes up quickly and waits with only a towel. Haruna leads him to her room and shows him her old photo albums. He's shocked to find himself in a bunch of pictures, which makes the moment sweet and nostalgic. But when she stands up to check on his clothes, she trips and falls. Rito instinctively dives to catch her, landing right on top of her. Just as they're about to kiss, Haruna's sister walks in and catches them in the act. Rito, only in a towel, panics and bolts out of there, his face completely red. Zaston shows up at Rito and Lala's school out of nowhere, and everyone's taken aback by his armor. He tells Lala she has to step up and act like the Princess of Deviluk, straight up revealing that she's an alien. To everyone's surprise, the students are pretty chill about it, like it's no big deal. Then, without any warning, he drags Lala onto his ship, with Rito and Haruna getting pulled along for the ride. Once aboard, Zaston explains that Lord Carter, an important figure from Deviluk, is coming to Earth and Lala must greet him. Rito and Haruna are roped in as her attendants. They all change into formal gear and head over to Carter's massive ship, which looks like a floating castle. Carter welcomes Lala like an old friend, and even asks her for a dance. But then he gets serious and shares his plan. He's on Earth to hunt, since his race is known for their hunting skills, and he wants to prove he's the best hunter in the universe. Rito recalls the King of Deviluk, saying that title actually belongs to the greatest guy out there. So he steps in and says he wants to hunt too. Carter's not thrilled, but agrees because Rito is Lala's fiancé and an Earthling. Rito has to wear rags and use old-school weapons. Reluctantly, he goes along with it. They land in the Guyana jungle, dressed like cavemen. Rito feels pretty uneasy with all the dinosaurs, tigers, and huge spiders lurking around. Armed only with a stone axe, he tries to protect Haruna when a gigantic gorilla, Galaxy Kong, snatches her. His attempt fails, but then arrows suddenly start flying, driving the beast back. A tribe of Amazon women shows up and says they'll take Haruna but want Rito as their brave warrior husband. Just then, Galaxy Kong takes off with Haruna, and Rito gets pulled into a marriage ceremony with the Amazon Queen. Right before it kicks off, Lala crashes in ready to fight, but she gets overpowered when an Amazon grabs her tail. Then, out of the blue, Haruna returns riding Galaxy Kong and surprisingly commands him to help Rito and Lala. The Amazons, freaked out by this, hightail it out of there. Lord Carter, impressed by what he just witnessed, decides Haruna deserves some recognition. Later on, he presents her with a golden cup, calling her the greatest huntress in the universe, which leaves Rito feeling pretty annoyed. The next morning, Haruna wakes up thinking it was all a dream, until she sees that huge golden cup sitting in her room. Rito and his friends take Lala to the amusement park pool, and she is absolutely thrilled since it is her first time there. While everyone is having a blast, Run watches from the sidelines, feeling pretty upset that Rito never notices her. So she decides to do something about it and try to grab his attention. Her first move is to sneak up on him in a diving suit, but everyone thinks she looks weird and kicks her out. Later on, she tackles Rito while he is getting ice cream, and he ends up spilling it all over Yui and Yami. Yui is mad at him, while Yami reminds him that her job is to eliminate him, although she admits he has guts. Trying to get Rito riled up, she starts chasing him around. Back at the pool, Lala gets bummed. There are no waves. She pulls out an invention and creates a whirlpool. Everyone panics and runs away, but Rito gets caught in Run's clingy hug and almost drowns. He wakes up thanks to Yui, which just makes Run even angrier. She comes up with a bunch of plans to embarrass the other girls, hoping Rito will notice her instead, but they all end up backfiring on him. Frustrated, Run unleashes her ace in the hole, a box of textile-eating space piranhas. The girls freak out, but Lala manages to trap them with a gadget, only to find out that the leader is actually Run in disguise. Embarrassed, she admits that she plans everything for Rito, but the girls blame him, which makes her even more upset. She runs off, meets a stranger who treats her to a meal, and gets the idea to become an idol to win Rito's love. She starts training with the school's sensei, but eventually loses her confidence and even thinks about becoming a swimsuit model instead. In the meantime, Haruna tells Rito that Run's craziness is because she likes him. Realizing he has been a bit harsh, he sets out to find her and ends up discovering she is being harassed. He tries to step in and defend her, but he gets overpowered until Lala shows up to help. In the end, Run thanks both of them, Rito apologizes, and Run decides she won't give up on chasing after his love. It all kicks off in this spooky old school building. Lala, Risa, Mio, and an extremely nervous Haruna are chatting about ghosts and creepy monsters. Lala suggests that they all, along with Rito, should check out the haunted house. As soon as they step inside, the door slams shut behind them like something out of a horror flick. They wander deeper into the rundown school when footsteps suddenly echo closer. Rito notices how scared Haruna is and decides to step up against whatever's coming, only to find out it's just Yami-chan. Then they hear this piano playing almost like it's coming after them. Yami quickly takes care of it and hacks it into pieces, making everything seem chill again. But then a skeleton and some freaky-looking dude pop up, constantly telling them to get out. An octopus-like monster appears next. Haruna freaks out, grabs Rito like a weapon, and smacks it on the head. The other monsters show themselves, but they're not attacking anymore. They explain they're aliens from tiny planets, just hanging out in the old school. Mikado-sensei shows up to help the monsters find jobs so they can support themselves. A ghost girl named Oshizu also shows up and shares her backstory with the crew. Mikado and the monsters come back to tell everyone that the job they found only wants to hire female monsters, which doesn't help them at all. Oshizu teaches them some tricks to look more feminine so they can land those jobs. Later, Lala, Rito, Yami-chan, and Mikado get invited to a party where all the monsters are going to be. They're completely stunned to see Zaston there. Mikado-sensei spots a spaceship landing on the school roof and decides to check it out. It turns out to be a delivery for Lala, so she tells her to go take a look. Lala, Rito, and Saruyama head up to the roof to see what's in the package. Lala opens the package and a gigantic wolf leaps out to attack. Suddenly, it clutches its stomach in pain and reveals she's pregnant. She explains that she was sent to take out Lala, but now her pregnancy has changed things. Rito, Saruyama, and Lala are freaked out, so they take the wolf mom to the school nurse. Saruyama ends up looking after her while she goes into labor. Lala thinks the wolf mom should get a little gift for her baby. To everyone's surprise, the wolf mom says she wants Saruyama as her gift. Saruyama, hearing this, just flat out refuses. Lala then tells Risa and Mio that Saruyama is going to be the wolf's gift, and they brainstorm to dress him up like a fish to make it more memorable. They bring Saruyama to the wolf, presenting him as a potential gift. The wolf asks if Saruyama is seeing someone because she values his happiness and doesn't want to mess with his relationship. Lala insists he's not, but Saruyama quickly shoots down the idea, trying to use this chance to find a girlfriend to dodge being taken. Unfortunately, all the girls at school turn him down, except for Haruna, who tries to help him out. When Saruyama asks Haruna out, Rito grows jealous and jumps in to stop him. Utterly desperate for an excuse, Saruyama finds a dog outside and decides to use that as his new girlfriend. When he goes back to the infirmary to show the wolf mom his new girlfriend, Lala tells him she's already left with her baby, wanting Saruyama to be happy. He's moved to tears by this news, only to realize later that the dog he found is actually a boy. Lala is seen checking out a TV ad for the Tsumata Mizami Hot Springs, and she tells Rito that she really wants her own hot spring. Rito finds her trying to build something in their backyard and she asks him to grab her a drink. Off he goes to the store, but he gets caught up in a surprise attack from Yami-chan, who's testing him. When he mentions that Lala is at home building something, Yami-chan takes off. When Rito gets back, he sees that Lala has put together this huge drilling machine to dig underground in her quest for a hot spring. Rito and Lala invite Mio, Risa, Mikado-sensei, Yami-chan, Haruna-chan, and Saruyama to help dig. While they're down there, they accidentally find Tokugawa's hidden treasure and the entrance to Atlantis, but Lala's too focused on finding a hot spring to care. Eventually, they hit the jackpot with what's called the 7-colored hot springs, where the water looks all kinds of colorful. All the girls dive into the big, comfy springs, while Rito and Saruyama are stuck in a tiny, cramped one. Saruyama eventually decides to hop out and mess with the girls in the bigger springs. Rito follows him, but then he sees Saruyama goofing around with Risa and Mio, so he tells him to chill. They run into Mikado-sensei and Yami-chan, who isn't having any of it and whacks them with her hair, all annoyed at their ecchi behavior. Later, Lala tells Haruna she needs to bounce to find a hot spring she can bring back for Rito. Rito finds Haruna, and they're about to chat when Lala drops the bomb that they need to get out fast because she's accidentally triggered a volcanic eruption underground. They run into a gang of moles trying to invade the surface, but magma starts creeping in, forcing everyone to scramble for safety. One day, Lala is chilling with Rito, watching her fave anime, Magical Girl Kyoko. The show's about Kyoko, a magical girl who's got a crush on her senpai, Ikan. Turns out, Ikan tells her that General Mojack, this bad dude leading a gang, is causing trouble at the mall by making people's hair grow big afros against their will. Kyoko calls on her kitty's help to transform and face off with the villain. She has a tough time landing hits but finally beats him by setting his afro on fire. Firefighters rush in, put out the flames, and fix everyone's hair. But then Kyoko gets arrested for breaking the city's no-fire rule. The police chief takes Kyoko to a sushi joint, hinting he'll let her off the hook if she plays along with his weird fire fetish. Grossed out, she bolts, but he corners her in the bathroom and threatens to leak photos that would expose her identity. With no choice, she's about to give in, when Mojack suddenly shows up with his mom. His mom immediately scolds Kyoko for burning her son's hair, but the chief steps in to defend her. Mojack fires back by zapping the chief with a big goofy afro. Instead of being mad, the guy loves it since he had been bald all along, and Mojack's mom ends up feeling proud. Out of nowhere, Ikan shows up, chased by a homeless guy who turns out to be Mojack's long-lost dad. He ditched the family for another woman, and now he's completely broke. His wife gets mad at him at first, but then chills out when she remembers she had an affair too. They make up as a family and break into a dance party. But things go wild again when Mojack unleashes even more afros. Lala thinks it's hilarious, while Rito can barely keep his eyes open. The next day, Mikado introduces Rito and Lala to Kimo, an editor who puts together travel magazines for aliens. He's looking to spotlight safe spots on Earth for extraterrestrial visitors. Rito and Lala have a tough time coming up with any good places until Kimo suggests that if Rito kicked off an inn for aliens, it could really take off across the universe. Mikado pitches the idea of using the old school building for this project. Rito's not so sure about it, but Lala is all in and promises to help him out. With Zastin and the Men in Black stepping in to fix up the place, they finally get the alien inn ready. At the grand opening, Kimo films a promo video to send out into space. Their first guest is Yami, who wants a shared lounge area. Next up are two giant women, followed by a bunch of space frogs who need different gravity settings. Rito runs into all sorts of trouble, like trying to scrub the backs of those massive women and nearly passing out in the frogs' waiting room. Realizing they can't handle it alone, Rito and Lala bring in Yami, Oshizu, and Mikan to pitch in. Just when they think they've got it all figured out, a group of ninjas shows up. They have a secret mission to bring down the king of Deviluk, but Rito's hospitality keeps getting in the way. The ninja leader tells him to back off, but Lala is determined to serve them tea. When they barge in, the ninjas pull out their intergalactic maps, convinced humans can't make sense of them, until Lala shows her Deviluk roots by revealing her tail. The ninja leader instantly tries to take her out. Luckily, Zastin shows up just in time, and a wild fight breaks out. The Men in Black and Zastin aren't enough to handle it, so Yami jumps in too. Lala tries to use one of her gadgets, but it utterly flops, causing even more chaos. By the end, the inn is completely wrecked. Kimo declares that Earth is no longer a safe spot for aliens to stay, while everyone who's hurt gets taken to the school infirmary. After a while, Yami reflects on her time on Earth and decides it's time to find a real job. Meanwhile, the students are gearing up for the school culture festival. Yui wishes the class would just do a boring calligraphy act, but Haruna totally disagrees. Rito gets picked as the class rep, and they all settle on hosting an animal cafe. Haruna takes charge as the producer and tries to measure the girls' sizes, but things get chaotic, and they end up kicking out the guys. Inside, Lala and her friends are making a scene while measuring each other, which makes the boys outside super curious. On top of that, Saki is determined to win the festival, seeing Rito's class as her biggest competition. Yui tries to find a job but isn't having much luck. As the festival approaches, Lala is eager to pitch in with her inventions, but Rito argues that the fun is all in doing things the old-fashioned way. Everyone's having a blast, except for Yui, until Haruna convinces her to join in. When one girl drops out, Lala asks Yami to step in. The animal cafe ends up being a huge hit, way better than Saki's insect cafe. Customers love being served by girls in animal costumes. Saruyama finds himself caught in a weird nightmare. It all kicks off when he gets attacked by the ninja Haruna, and then Magistrate Yui starts blaming him for corrupting morals. Things take a turn for the worse when Yami shows up, demanding Yui hand back Saki's stolen crest. Yami creates some flames that scare him, but thankfully, she puts them out. Later that night, Sarayama stumbles upon a lineup of geisha. Mesmerized, he stares until he realizes it's actually Rito, Ren, and Zaston in disguise. The surprise snaps him awake in class, just as Lala shows off her latest robotic invention that puts people to sleep. Out of nowhere, he's pulled back into his nightmare again. In the dream, Yui is ready to have him executed, but he manages to escape and runs into the boatman Momo, only to find his alien women are there to mess with him again. He dashes into a tea house where Risa offers him tea and dango, but those women catch up with him there too. In a panic, he throws on women's clothes, but Mikado mistakes him for her sister and hits him with incredible strength. As he bolts away, he bumps into Mikan, who thinks he's a bear and plays way too rough until she sends him flying to the beach. There, Lala sees him and thinks he's a turtle, transforming him and making him take her to an underwater castle. Of course, his alien women are waiting for him there too. When he tries to escape, he gets caught by the 7 goddesses of fortune. More creations of Lala. Her assistant wants to turn him into sashimi and drags him to the palace, where the torment just keeps going until Sarayama wakes up in total horror. Rito wakes up to find Lala in his bed again, but this time she totally freaks out when she realizes she's exposed. Embarrassed, she bolts out of the room. At breakfast, she avoids him completely, and on their way to school, she admits she feels awkward, but he doesn't really get why. Lala's acting all different. She greets her friends politely and seems way more reserved, which confuses everyone. At school, Ren confesses his feelings for her, but she just hides behind Rito. Once they're on the rooftop, she starts being all sweet and feminine, making Rito blush like crazy. Peak notices that she has a fever, and Rito decides to take her to the nurse. Mikado figures out she's got reversal flu, which messes with her personality for a week until the vaccine comes. Now, Lala is acting extremely shy and innocent, grabbing the attention of all her classmates. Some guys ask her out, and Rito is seriously struggling to resist her charm. The next morning, she wakes him with a wild invention, a running machine meant to make him the greatest in the universe. But when it overheats, she breaks down crying, thinking she's failed him, and he comforts her. Over the next few days, her fever gets worse, and her personality keeps changing. Then one morning, she shows up dressed like a general with Zaston, plotting to take over Earth so Rito can rule it. She even makes an android army and promises their friends rewards. To Rito's surprise, even Haruna agrees with her plan, though she stays secretly loyal to him. When the androids launch their attack, Yami shows up with the vaccine, but Zaston blocks her and declares that this is the real princess of Deviluk. Lala announces the takeover will start in a minute. Rito, feeling cornered, pleads with her to stop and reminisces about their good times together. Coming to grips with his feelings, he shouts that he loves her. His confession breaks through her fever, and Lala melts, calling off the plan and blushing. But just then, a massive ship shows up. The king of Deviluk arrives and claims his daughter, insisting that Rito can't marry her. He tells Earth that he's not looking to take over, just wants to show off his strength. He reminds Lala that Rito needs to stick to his goal of becoming the greatest man in the universe and asks her not to get involved. Later that night, Rito can't stop thinking about Lala. When the door opens, he hopes it's her, but it's actually Ren with a message from Lala's dad. Rito has to represent Earth in a trial and needs to reach the king's spaceship by tomorrow. He'll have to go through a bunch of challenges, and if he messes up, Earth will be toast. The bad news spreads like wildfire, leaving everyone feeling pretty hopeless. Miss Mikado wishes him luck, Sarayama calls to offer some encouragement, and even Mikan sends him a supportive message from their parents. That night, Haruna asks to meet up with him. He sneaks past the reporters and meets her in the park. They both feel a bit awkward, remembering his confession to Lala. But with Earth's fate in the balance, Rito opens up about his feelings for Haruna as well. She hugs him, assuring him that everything will be okay. At dawn, Rito takes off on his mission to save Earth, with the crowd cheering him on. Meanwhile, Yui goes to find Miss Mikado to ask her something. The first challenge kicks off. Huge seeds come crashing down from the sky like boulders, and vines start growing from them, trapping people. Rito manages to dodge them at first until he trips up. Luckily, Yui swoops in to help and gets him loaded into Miss Mikado's truck. Sarayama tells Rito that the main goal of the game is to reach the King of Deviluk's spaceship, and he can totally get help if he needs it. Miss Mikado speeds things up by driving Rito closer, but then the road collapses, forcing them to stop. Just then, Saki shows up in her private helicopter and takes Rito and the others on board. She mentions that if Rito pulls this off, it'll mean he's defeated both Lala and her dad. Out of nowhere, the helicopter gets shot at, but Yami jumps in to protect them. reminding Rito that her mission is still to eliminate him within a day. Meanwhile, Mio and Risa go check on Haruna, who's been following Rito's adventure on TV. They convince her to join them, and together they hop into Ren's flying car to help out. Rito then runs into some trouble with a green slime that catches him, but his friends cheer him on and help him break free, telling him to keep pushing on. Lala watches from the spaceship and asks her dad not to hurt them. The king reassures Lala that they're safe, but insists Rito needs to go through a trial. The big final challenge is a field filled with huge flowers that release sleepy pollen. Rito falls into a dream where Lala and Haruna tell him he doesn't have to choose. The three of them can be happy together. Time flies while he's stuck in the dream. Meanwhile, he's just standing there asleep as time runs out. Haruna shows up, and with Lala watching from above, both girls shout for him to wake up. Their voices break through, and Rito snaps back to reality, racing toward the finish line. He just barely makes it, collapsing into Lala's arms while she cries happy tears. The king of Deviluk declares Rito the winner and calls him the greatest guy in the universe, giving him the go-ahead to marry Lala. But Rito hesitates and looks over at Haruna. Noticing this, Lala withdraws the engagement, saying it's only brought him pain. She decides to use one of her gadgets to wipe everyone's memories, including Rito's, so they can start fresh. Even though he protests, she confesses her love and activates the device. The next day, Lala shows up at school and introduces herself again, but her invention messes up just like always. Thankfully, everyone still remembers her. Rito feels relieved and happy that she's around, wanting to be with her for a long time. Overjoyed, Lala jumps into his arms. And that's To Love Ru. Rito just wanted a normal high school romance, and instead got aliens, tentacles, and a harem he never asked for. If you survived this madness, smash that like button, subscribe, and join the chaos. Because with Rito around, things are only gonna get weirder.